Since Runescape's first release in 2001, a lot has changed. New content's been released, old content's evolved, and the game just doesn't feel how it used to. But what if there was a way to experience the oldest content in the game exactly as it was intended, isolated from all the skills, the keybinds, the stuff of modern day? Well, it turns out there is. Welcome to LVL Locked. The Barbarian Village south of Edgeville has existed in Runescape since 2001, and it's one of the most iconic areas in game. But as it turns out, those barbarians are not native to Mithril. They actually once lived far to the west, in Relica. Unfortunately, Relica and the entirety of the Fremennik Province that it's part of has been cut off from the rest of Gillinor since the bridges connecting them to the mainland broke years ago. Well, I should say was cut off, because during 2004, local council workmen from Kandarin repaired the bridges, and that meant we can now finally venture into the north and meet the barbarians in their true homeland. Now, because I, the adventurer, am clearly the most important person in all of Gillinor, I deserve to be respected by all who see me, but it isn't quite the case here. I went to speak to Chieftain Brunt, leader of Relica, but he explained to me that the Fremennik aren't very friendly towards those who aren't Fremennik, which of course includes me. Now normally I could just look past this and leave, but Relica has a ton of helpful resources, shops, marketplace, and most importantly a port that will no doubt come in handy in the future when I want to reach islands further to the north. So I decided I had to become a part of their colony. So how does one become a Fremennik? Well, there's two ways. The first method is far the easiest, or well, it's also kind of the hardest depending on who you are. Basically, if your parents are Fremennik, then so are you. Unfortunately, nobody anywhere in Gillinor seems to know anything about my parents. It's almost like I just spawned into existence one day as a fully grown adult. So it's probably safe to assume that my parents, whoever they were, weren't Fremennik. The other way to join is to be voted in by the council, a group of 12 respected and experienced Fremenniks who each represent a different aspect of the Fremennik culture. This means I will have to impress at least 7 of them to earn a majority vote by completing whatever tasks they would require from me. Sounds like a lot of work, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be worth it. So let's get started. The first council member I spoke to was Pier the Seer, who values wisdom and intelligence above all else. As such, this task was a puzzle. A weird sort of Galorian escape room built inside his very own house. Honestly, it makes me wonder what this guy's life is like, if this is his actual house. Like, does he have to get up and do this every time he wants to leave? That must get very expensive having to set it back up every day. And it's not like he had gone in to set it up just before we got there. It was already ready. How long had he been waiting for someone to show up? What a strange man. Anyway, I eventually made it out the house, impressing Pier the Seer enough to get his vote. 1 down, 6 to go. Next up was Sigil the Huntsman, whose area of expertise lies within hunting. To impress him, I would need to hunt down a fearsome creature. But Hunter wasn't released until 2006, so how am I supposed to do this? Well, it turns out Sigil wasn't talking about hunting rabbits or anything, more along the lines of hunting down an ancient evil ghost that haunts the nearby forest and consumes the souls of those who die at sea. Sweet. To make things even worse, I couldn't just kill it, because it's a ghost. I had to capture its spirit in a special talisman after defeating it. With the talisman in my backpack, I ventured out into the forest in search of Drogon. Eventually found him and our epic battle commenced. Wait, that was it? Oh. Anyway, I took the talisman back to Sigil and in doing so, earned his vote. Up next was number 3, Swenson the Navigator, who felt like he little needed to stop me from becoming a Fremennik, but still wanted me to complete a small task to prove my worth. As a navigator, he wished to test my directional skills and ability to find my way through strange locations. He took me to a room with 4 portals, 1 on each side. I had to choose the correct portal several times in a row to make it to the end. As you can imagine, after completing the task, I earned his vote, and that makes 3, almost halfway. Thorvald the warrior gave me my next task, to show my combat skills against warrior known as Koshi the Deathless. I would have to beat him at least 3 times in 4 attempts, with no armour and no weapons, to show how dedicated I was to the task. I must be willing to fight to my very last breath. It's pretty mental. I went downstairs into the area and began the round 1 fight. A few punches later, he was dead. He barely even scratched me. Koshi the Deathless, more like Koshi the... Oh my god, he's alive again. He came back even stronger than before, but he was still no match for these hands. I tried my best to look past the fact that I literally just watched a man die and then undie multiple times and just focus on the fight. And before I knew it, round 4 was over and I'd completed my task. Council member number 5 had quite possibly the easiest task. All I had to do was get an exotic flower from a sailor who had visited from a far away land and bring it back to him. The problem is the sailor wouldn't just give me the flower. He wanted a ballad from Olaf the Bird, who wanted some new boots from Ysir, who wanted Chief Brundant to lower her taxes, who, you get the point. A lot of people wanted a lot of things, even though I'm not a Fremennik, so none of the Fremennik people are supposed to like me. They all decided I was trustworthy enough to manage all of these trades. The weird thing is, most of the people involved are in the council, so surely they meet each other like all the time? Anyway, I finally managed to get the flower that Sigmund wanted, and by giving it to him, I earned his vote. Next up was Manny the Revealer, everyone's favourite resident alcoholic. To prove my worth, I would have to beat him in a drinking contest. This wouldn't be easy, but the Fremennik are an honourable group, who don't back down from a battle just because it seems hard, or because their odds aren't in their favour. No, they give it their all and take loss with dignity, hoping to one day return for a rematch. Now the thing is, I ain't no Fremennik yet, so I don't care about any of that. It's far easier for me just to cheat. I got some low alcohol beer that I could mix into the keg to make it easier to drink, but I couldn't just drink it because people would notice. I had to distract them with something. So I hid a bomb inside a pipe just outside the long hall and waited for it to explode. While everyone was distracted, I mixed my drink, allowing me to beat Manny and earn his vote, albeit not very honourably. The last council member on the list was Olaf the Bard, who wanted a magically enchanted lyre. It would be made from rare wood that only grew on one tree, and strung with gold and wool. The wood wasn't hard to get, but the wool, on the other hand, it was guarded by a troll. Apparently, a young boy named Asgaladen had given the troll a pet rock for some gold and wool, but it wouldn't work twice. Instead, the troll wanted some fresh rock soup, so I threw some rocks in a pot with some vegetables and boom, golden fleece obtained. So now I have a special lyre, but not magically enchanted one. To enchant it, I need to make an offering to a strange spirit on the altar to the south of Relica. After gifting it a raw shark to the spirit, my lyre was enchanted. So I took it to the long hall and showed off the new instrument, earning the vote of Olaf the Bard. With the majority of the council members on my side, I returned to Chief Bunton and was finally accepted of a Fremennik, being given the name of Docton. Remember that port I said that would come in handy in the future? Well, it's the future. Okay, it isn't the future, it's the present. It's always the present, but like, now. Well, you get what I'm trying to say. Our next quest takes us to Miscellanea and etc. Neighbouring islands north of Relica. Now unfortunately, these neighbours aren't exactly best friends. There's an air of distrust between the two rulers, specifically Queen Sigrid of etc. does not trust the King Vargas of Miscellanea. Why they don't just settle their differences and talk it out between themselves, I don't know. But there is one small problem that not many people know about King Vargas, and, well, he's a Yeti. Because of this, he needs a regent, someone who can publicly face the monarchy and rule on his behalf while he sorts out the whole being a Yeti thing. That's where I come in, Doctor of the Fremennik, the hero. I will provide my aid. Before Vargas would grant me full control of the literal entire colony, he asked me to resolve the tension between Miscellanea and etc. by establishing a peace treaty, and so, figuring this out wouldn't be easy. So I got ready for a lot of running about. I paid a visit to Queen Sigrid, who said that she would agree to sign a peace treaty on one condition. Miscellanea must recognise etc. as a sovereign state. Now I had to head back to Vargas, who agreed on this deal, on one condition. Etc. changed its terrible national anthem. Once again, I ran all the way across to Queen Sigrid, who eventually agreed to change it. On one okay, you get the point. The duty of creating a new, better national anthem fell upon my shoulders. Thankfully, Prince Brand, Vargas' son, is a master poet, or so he says. He must be good, because he's finished the song in a matter of seconds. I present to you the new Exeterian national anthem. Etc., etc. Oh, what a great country it is. Etc., etc. So us wrote a song about it. It's somewhere in the sea. It looks very nice. If it weren't for your ancestors, it wouldn't be there at all. Alright, that was terrible. I suppose there should have been a bit more emphasis on the whole, or so he says, part of the Prince brand being a master poet. The only other person I could turn to was Advisor Grimm, who, as it turns out, is somewhat of a lyricist, and so the new Exeterian national anthem was written. Etc., etc., of our country we are proud, etc., etc., let's sing its name loud. Rise high above the water, the jewel of the north. Our mothers and our fathers to build this land came forth. In times of darkness, sing praises of our land, and in our we can be sure victory is at hand. I return to etc. again. I wonder what the locals think of all this random guy just running forwards and backwards all day. I bet they'll be even more surprised to find out that this random guy is about to become their new ruler. Anyway, Queen Sigrid was happy with the new anthem, and thankfully there were no more conditions. She signed her half of the treaty, and so that all was left to do was to go to King Vargas and get him to sign it. And there's one tiny little problem though. Miscellanea only stocks normal, human-sized pens, which is fine, unless the person who needs the pen is a 10-foot tall Yeti. I need to make a special, extra-large pen. Surely he saw this coming though, like it was his idea to suggest the treaty, so he knew he'd have to sign it. As it turns out, Derek, a local blacksmith, just so happens to be incredibly talented at making comically large iron pen nibs. All I needed was some wooden handle part, and a Yeti-sized pen was complete, allowing Vargas to sign the treaty and formally bring in peace to the two countries. The next thing I needed to do before I could become regent to the king, and definitely not seize power over the entire country, is to marry into the royal family. As it turns out, King Varthas has a rather attractive daughter named Astrid, who happens to be exactly my type. By my type, I mean she will be able to provide me with the direct route to the throne. Now, of course, with many years of dating experience, I know the best way around a woman's heart. And of course, that is just to barge directly into her room. Honestly, Astrid was surprisingly relaxed about the whole situation, saying that I am by no means first man who wanted her hand in marriage. I had a chat with her for a bit, and then gave her some flowers and a bow to impress her with my incredible wealth, all 200 GP of it that I spent on her. But this still wasn't enough. I was missing something, but I couldn't quite work out what it was until it hit me. I must win her heart through the power of dance. Just as I had planned, Princess Astrid could not resist my incredible dance skills and agreed to marry me. When we could eventually find a suitable priest, take time Astrid, no rush, honestly, I've got everything you've needed. Finally, I could rule the country. I had to convince the people that I'm not just a tyrannical leader who will boss them around and force entire industries to hold their work so that they can focus all their efforts on something that I want, but I ain't making no promises here. All I had to do was help the locals with their work for a little bit, and eventually, when my approval rating became high enough, I returned to King Vargas, where I was given the official title of Regent of Miscellanea. Sure, my morals have been incredibly questionable throughout all of this, and it's not like the adventurer is always really a good guy, but it just happens to be the main character. With that, the Throne of Miscellanea was complete, and my Fremennik adventure came to an end, at least for this year. I'm sure I'll be back soon enough. Speaking of this, and that's the episode coming to the end as well. Just like to end the episode with a quick thanks to everyone that has been enjoying the series so far. If you haven't already, drop a like and a subscription on the video. That came out really weirdly, but we'll start again, doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever. Thanks again. I love you all. Bye. P.S. Breezy sucks at COD.